Hello, my name is John SanGiovanni. I'm VP of Product Design and co-founder of Zumobi. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to be here at the Seattle Interactive Conference. For their second year, we really enjoyed last year's event, and kudos to Brian and the team for kind of galvanizing Seattle's unique community of geeks and artist-geek hybrids into this event and really celebrating those characteristics about this region and talking about trends in digital and mobile and apps and brands, and all these things are what we're going to discuss today. I also want to mention that I noticed there's a few Zumobians in the room, and everything you're going to see today as examples of brand projects or publishing projects are really their work and a celebration of a team of absolutely incredible technical and creative and business professionals. I am in awe to have the honor to work with them, and I always joke to my wife that when I show up to work, like the average IQ drops by like 50 points, and then when I head back home, it spikes back up again. So absolutely amazing people that I'm honored to have the opportunity to work with, and all the work that you see here is real. There's no mock-ups or concepts. These are all real campaigns. Some of the concepts seem quite progressive, particularly in mobile, but it's actually a credit not only to the team, but also to our publishing partners and our brand and advertising partners that we've been able to do some things that are a little bit out in front of where the market is with regard to mobile advertising and mobile apps, and we're excited to share that with you today. So many of you might know Zumobi. We're actually exactly 4 blocks that way. We're between here and Pike Place Market. And we have kind of a unique business in the sense that we're a co-publishing network and technology company. So what this means is that we've created really some of the biggest apps for iPhone and Android and iPad and Android tablet. And interestingly, these apps are typically co-published in partnership with a major media brand. So in the case of MSNBC, which is now NBC News, Meet the Press, Today Show, Motor Trend, Popular Science, a bunch of apps together with with MSN, a bunch of apps together with the Sporting News. The novel thing about co-publishing is that unlike a traditional app development studio, where we're hired and we build an app and we sort of fire and forget it, and then they have to call us back when there's a new version of iOS or when they want to address a new platform, this model is quite different in the sense that each one of these projects are really joint ventures in collaboration with a major media company, where we together will ideate and design and execute an app. But because we're co-publishing them, and because we're both invested in the long-term monetary and audience success of this app, it really changes the way that we think about user experience and user flow, because we are very incentivized to make sure that the audience and usage of these apps continues to grow, and that the monetization of these apps continues to grow. So unlike most sort of app efforts, monetization of an app is so central to the early stages of our process. Now, make no mistake, I know why most of you are probably at this talk at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and we will talk about the Ninja Turtles, I promise. But beforehand, I thought it might be nice to sort of provide a little primer of the landscape of apps and ads and some technical notes about the current state of the market. So we've been doing apps and mobile advertisements for a very long time. We actually did the first branded content app in the App Store literally 2 weeks after the App Store opened. It was the official app for the Beijing Olympics, and that was sponsored together with Lenovo and Intel, and it was a very cool sort of Olympics experience. And as a result, we've kind of been at this for a long time and recognized quickly the complexities of multi-platform, multi-screen publishing. So the first thing that might be interesting for the technical folks in the audience is that we've actually invested a lot in our own app development platform, which we use. It's really only an internal tool. We call it AppGen, but it's really a hybrid app development architecture that allows us to, on a screen-by-screen basis, decide whether we want that screen to be running right on the metal for best performance and best kind of user response, or if we want to leverage HTML technologies so that it can be adaptive to a wide range of different devices, real estates, new pixel densities when they come down the pipeline. And because we can make that decision on a screen-by-screen basis, it really lets us be able to address a very large profile of apps across a large number of platforms, which is very cool. In fact, our engineering practice has 3 separate focus areas. So there's a team of native developers that are kind of rock star, again, experts in iOS and Android development. Then there's also, we have a really talented tribe of HTML5, JavaScript, JSON sorcerers that can create these very cool experiences using web technologies in-app. And then we also have a very sophisticated cloud-based feed processing practice so that we can drink in feeds from a wide variety of different publishing partners, process them, cache them locally on the device, provide offline support, and also provide a tremendous uptime across so many apps and so many users. So that practice has been great fun, and we've had some real successes. Actually, our talk at SIC last year was really about app publishing and best practices, so it's not my intention to repeat that in this talk. Many of you probably use the official app for NBC News and our award-winning Peacock menu. You might, being design professionals, dig Dwell, which also was a Webby nominee. So we've done a lot of very cool work on app development. In the space of our kind of brief shaped charge together today, I thought I would spend time talking about the current media zeitgeist, which is all about mobile advertising. And this is a very exciting time for mobile advertising. Mobile apps now have sort of found their voice. I'm sure most of you in the room have worked on some app-related project. But mobile advertising is really where the explosive growth potential is in the years to come, as it's really the first inning in mobile advertising. And so we've actually spent the last few years really diving deep on that, understanding what our publishers' needs are for custom high-end brand advertising, and also understanding what our brand partners' needs are in terms of brand advertising. So a quick overview of the current state of mobile advertising. Most of the mobile advertising that you're exposed to today is probably this, right? It's a 320 by 50 shoehorn to the bottom of an app design, 640 by 100 Retina. It's good that that's a standard unit that everybody can sort of use. It works quite well for the long tail of apps. So if you're a developer and you don't necessarily maybe have a direct relationship with a major brand advertiser, you can plug in an ad network's SDK and they'll provide ads in there for you. And the majority of these ads come from ad networks. They're banners that are served on a network buy. The quality of the advertising is okay. It's not quite in the days of ringtones and wallpapers, but there's definitely variable quality in the types of advertising that you see in there. I guess the biggest challenge with this style of advertising is that it's not particularly engaging to the user. In fact, as users, we all intuitively know how good we've become at sort of ignoring these banners. But more importantly, it's maybe not meeting the needs of these top-tier major media companies or their brand advertisers. So that's a challenge. Now, I will mention that you've probably heard there's a lot of buzz in the industry around rich media. This 5 minutes, and I think that some of the standards around rich media advertising, specifically what's happening with MRAID, those are important standards for the industry. We support those consortia. In fact, we'll be one of the first networks to have rolled out MRAID on every single one of our apps so that we can accept those campaigns. We often will supersize our high-end brand campaigns beyond our network using technologies like MRAID and other rich media standards. That's important, but my frustration with rich media today is that everybody uses that term a little bit differently, and so it's become a term that unfortunately means everything and nothing. For many people, rich media just means that it's a 320 by 50 that when you tap it, you get an animated unfold and then it takes over the whole screen, which is not that dissimilar to the experience of a 320 by 50 to an in-app microsite viewer. So in that way, we actually think there's tremendous opportunity for real design and technical innovation around brand advertising in mobile. Now, at this point, I'll pause and say, let's talk a little bit about brand advertising on mobile, because brand advertising with top-tier brands is a fundamentally different proposition than the sort of performance-oriented advertising that drives most of the banner buys. So take a look at, for example, the world of television advertising. In the continuum between brand campaigns and response or performance-oriented campaigns, the split is about here, right? The majority of advertising on television is television spots, 30-second emotional appeals for brand building, and there's a little sliver of performance-oriented campaigns, infomercials, late-night 1-800 numbers, to which I am admittedly uncontrollably drawn. But there's still a relatively small percentage of the advertising share of television. Well, now let's look at web and interactive. So pretty much the opposite, right? Where you have the majority of advertising is search response, AdWords, response-oriented CPC-style ads, and then you have a little sliver of microsites, flash microsites, video pre-rolls for brand building. But it's pretty unbalanced in the other direction. Now, what about mobile? So I think most people are predisposed to think that mobile would actually be closer to where web is, and because of branded apps making up a relatively small percentage of the brand buy of a given campaign. But then there's banners and search and local and mapping, and those are more performance oriented and they take up a large share. And although I acknowledge that this is kind of what it looks like today, one of the core kind of insights that I'd like to share with you in the context of our conversation today is that we believe passionately that this is going to change. And in fact, that branded apps, while an early, fun way to experiment with a brand on a superphone, an iPhone, an Android device, the truth is that although those apps get exceptional engagement numbers, you don't really tend to get huge audience on a campaign-specific branded app, like you would with a traditional advertising campaign. So we believe in this philosophy of brand integration. It's taking, go to where the users are, the apps that they love and that they launch several times a day, and then figure out how to infuse that content app with a brand experience in the context of where they are in a way that's not as disruptive as a sort of flashing banner might be. And we really believe that as this marketplace grows, as we all see, every single study says that mobile content consumption will explode, we actually believe that the opportunity for brand advertising inside that segment will disproportionately expand as compared to the more performance-oriented advertising, which is most of what we see today. And as a result, we find this space to be really the most exciting segment and the fastest growing category in the fastest growing industry, mobile. So it's a very, very exciting time, and I'm having, more fun than I've ever had in terms of where this industry is going to go in the years to come. So that talks a little bit about what my current job is, but now is maybe a good time to take a step back and talk a little bit about my first job. So when you grow up in Orlando, Florida, you have all kinds of interesting opportunities for a summer job that you might not have in other places. So just to be clear, I'm this one. This is my brother and sister, and this was taken in the early 90s. So it's a very interesting experience to be a costume character performer for the Walt Disney Company. And many of the insights that I employ day to day come from having been exposed to the passion around guest experience and user experience that is just so core to the fabric of Disney. This was actually a strange day at Disney because shortly after this very happy photo, actually Pluto mauled my brother. It was very scary. And what's actually, I noticed this just last night when I was dropping these photos in. This dude back here, he's called a character lead. His job is to make sure the characters don't do anything inappropriate. So you can see how seriously he's taking his job. He's like looking somewhere over there. And also important to note that this kid is right in my blind spot. And I didn't realize he was there, so hopefully I didn't scar him for life. As you can see, he's like, oh my God, Pluto's, And then actually just moments after this picture was taken, Pluto went into a nearby restaurant and did the same to my father. And then soon thereafter, after taking a picture with my brother and his fiance, then promptly tried to steal her away. So being Pluto was incredible fun. Now, you might wonder, how does one become a character at the Walt Disney Company? And it's actually kind of a crazy audition process. So once a year in the summertime, they hold an audition, a casting call at the Florida Fairgrounds and Central Florida Fairgrounds, and you show up. The year that I auditioned, there were about 400 people that attended that one casting call, going for about 40 positions. Imagine a room about 4 times the size of this room, just a massive interior space, and 400 would-be, wanna-be character entertainers at the back of the room, all lined up. Then you have a set of chairs here and a set of chairs in this corner. On stage is a choreographer, and then there's a dude on a piano. And the choreographer teaches a dance step to everyone. And then the pianist starts playing the Mickey Mouse March, dun, 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 and plays that on a loop for 4 hours, I kid you not. As these strangers who are auditioning march down the room in 2 by 2, and what happens is the choreographer, and by the way, however ridiculous you think this choreography is, I promise it's more ridiculous than that. It's like, it's very like, whatever you would expect Pluto to do to, try and get a job. So so as you're sort of walking down, the choreographer is saying, okay, both of you go to these chairs, both of you go to these chairs, one and one, and they're making decisions as these people are walking down. And you very quickly realize the set of chairs that you don't want to be in. And so, of course, as you would expect, the choreographer then very nicely goes down to that group and says, thank you for your time, try next year. And then they take this group, which is still formidable, and they put them in the back, and then they have to do a little bit more advanced choreography. They come down, and then they sort of keep doing that, Mickey Mouse March playing continuously until you end up with about 100 people. Now, the next stage is even more colorful. So at this point, they take these remaining 100 people, and I was fortunate enough to be one of them, and they give you a character card. And a character card looks something like this. I just made this up last night, but it looks very much like this. It's basically a picture of a Disney character and a little snapshot of their personality. In this case, hilariously, I actually copied and pasted this from Wikipedia. His anger is a great cause of suffering in the duck's life. But they give you this card, and then they bring you into what's called characterization trials, where they file you in 2 by 2 in front of this panel of 3 judges. It's like some weird warped version of The Voice or American Idol, and some like crazy charades parallel universe where they say, what character are you? And I was like, I was given Donald Duck. And they say, okay, you're Donald Duck, paint a fence, go! And you have to, of course, you're mute because the characters on stage at Disney are mute. So you have to then paint a fence, and you have to do this ridiculous pantomime where you're painting the fence and you have to do this thing. And then after about 5 minutes of that ridiculousness, you're either a character or you're not. I was fortunate enough to be the former and be selected as a character. And then you go immediately from selection, within a week, you're in a program called Disney Traditions, which is a world-famous orientation program. In fact, I understand it's changed in the decades since I did this, but at the time it was universally celebrated as one of the best kind of orientation programs in any major corporation, because it was really, let's be honest, sort of cultural indoctrination, where whether you are Pluto or you're sweeping the floors or you're a senior executive at Disney, you go through this program. And the cool thing about it is that they teach you about what we now refer to as user experience. You quickly realize that Disney was 50 years ahead of his time. He was the first person to truly grok the concept of user experience. He called it guest experience, and it underlies everything that Disney does, and it actually has become a foundation for the way we think about apps and ads at Zumobi. So the guest experience, I'd say the first lesson that I took from my days at Disney was, they use this soundbite: we should all strive to surprise, delight, and engage our guests. They're emphatic about nomenclature, so it's not customers, they're guests. You're not an employee, you're a cast member. You're not at work, you're on stage or you're off stage. They're very precise with that language to really create this air of comfort. Another funny anecdote about Traditions is that they, in this sort of spirit of thinking about how to make the user as comfortable as possible at all times, it turns out that when most people go on vacation, they kind of leave their brain at home oftentimes. People sort of, and that's kind of the point of vacation. So there's a question that you get from guests at Disney, a shocking amount, which is, what time is the 4 o'clock parade? And now, at any other company, a question like "What time is the 4 o'clock parade?" Being staffed by by teenagers, they would say, "Dude, 4 o'clock." They would answer it in that way. Disney quickly had an insight that was a common question. They rapidly, through some process, circulated around the correct response to that question. What is the right answer to that question that would make the guest feel as comfortable as possible at that moment? And the answer to that question is, go ahead, ask me, what time is the 4 o'clock parade? Oh, it's actually good you asked because, good point. You should get there a little bit before 4 o'clock to make sure that you have a good seat. You know, little things like that, little attention to detail notes that really transform the way that people think about the experience of whether they're playing a video game at a Disney theme park or using an iPhone app. So cutting back to this challenge that we have, you know, although I acknowledge that banner advertising is an important concept of advertising, and we do a lot of it, and we kind of telegraph a lot of it out, in the context of this talk, when we're talking about futures, I don't think this style of advertising is going to surprise, delight, or engage our guests in the way that we should strive to. So as a result, we actually have spent a lot of time thinking about this concept of brand integration. In fact, that's the touchstone of an entire initiative that we call ZBI, or Zumobi Brand Integration. It's a technology platform, it's a user experience, it's a philosophy for how we think about mobile advertising, all these things very, very integrated. And here's how it plays out. Now, we've been doing these style campaigns for literally 3 or 4 years now. And one of the early examples is one we did together with Mercedes inside the official app for Motor Trend, which we co-publish. So you can see that on the loading experience, there's this very elegant and organic, you know, sort of understated, semi-transparent placement. It's a 640 by 300, you know, nice amount of real estate, but somehow it doesn't feel as shocking as a banner. In this case, it was actually designed by the same design professional that designed the app itself. So in that way, it has this very sort of elegant presence. And then, even at design time, when we designed the app itself, so this is the home screen of the app. In the case of Motor Trend, we employ this, you know, automotive dashboard motif. And so when we designed this home screen, we thought about what would be a really elegant place to put a premium brand placement. So we reserved a little bit of real estate for this unit that we call the jitterbug, which is a little brand bug on the home screen. It feels organic to the design of the app, and it's integrated in a very graceful way. Now, at this point, I'll pause and say one of the biggest challenges that I have when doing these types of conversations is how does one demo a touch screen in an environment like this? You know, a series of PowerPoint slides usually doesn't cut it. And so we've actually also spent years developing a very, very advanced touchscreen technology for doing so. And the technique is that with very careful iPhone programming, a very, very careful PowerPoint programming, a PowerPoint remote, which you actually put in the hand. There we go. And complete disregard for life and limb. You can interact with an iPhone experience on the phone. So for example, in this case, if I wanted to drill into content, I would just tap on road tests, and then I would tap on an article. Sorry, totally cheesy. So this is a content article. This is an article where you would be reading a piece of content. There's an interesting design philosophy that we employ here. What we do is we hover for a second, and there's a banner that pops up, and it hovers there for a very scientific 4.3 seconds. And this is executed in such a way that the really appealing photo of the car or whatever is typically designed to be on the bottom portion of the banner. And then after that 4.3 seconds, it collapses down such that just the call to action is left there. And then the nice thing about that is once the user actuates on that, that takes them into this, which is an app within an app style experience. You'll note that this has Zumobi Chrome on it because it's not just a UI web view to a microsite. It's actually also a very cool kind of native web and a hybrid container so that we can do some advanced things that are well beyond what you could do using web technologies. We can get hardware accelerated graphics using web technologies and WebKit, but we can also do things like user-generated content or social media interop well beyond what's possible using just web technologies. So this sort of 1-2 punch is a very cool way to interact. The next example that I'll give you is Parenting Magazine. So we did a very cool campaign for American Living, which is a JCPenney brand. Again, very cool, nice, supersized loading screen placement. Home screen, once again, we've reserved a very elegant, presented by style brand bug, in this case in the lower right-hand corner of the app. And then when you tap on this content, it takes you into this which is articles in parenting. I'll tap on this. Being a parent, I'm interested to know discipline mistakes that parents make. You see that unit pops up, 4.3 seconds, settles back down. You say, whoa, what was that? Cool, shop now. And then this takes you into this sort of app within an app. And this is a true, very deep, hardware-accelerated, true app within an app. Importantly, everything you've seen in terms of the brand placements, they are not baked into the native. They're actually served with an ad server, with a standard rich media ad server, so that we can change a campaign the day that the television campaign goes live. We can track incredibly detailed metrics and usage data. So in this case, if I want to interact with this, I tap on this and I say, oh, I want to shop for girls' looks, and then I have this sort of sexy spinner where I can go through here and I can interact, and then I can say, awesome, I want to shop now, and I can actually purchase this outfit right inside here. With this technology, we've also been able to capture some advertisers that you might never see do brand advertisement. So for example, Boeing might not be the first brand that comes to mind when you think about mobile advertising, but it turns out that they're very interested in getting in front of the audience of the Meet the Press app. They're in front of that audience in almost every other medium. So we worked together with the team at the publisher to figure out a really cool way to integrate this Boeing content on mobile. So on the home screen, I tap on an article, and then it takes me into a detail page. The Paso Doble unit pops up, settles back down, and this is an example where this is long-form video content. These aren't 30-second spots. These are minutes-long videos about how Boeing designs airplanes and how they do temperature testing and sustainable methods for design. Boeing is the kind of advertiser that we as an industry need to bring to mobile in a big way. And it's technologies like ZBI that will allow them to do that, I think, in new ways. And so I think, aside from geeking out from a design and technical standpoint about how this is cool, I think it's important to note that we can capture a whole new category of advertiser to mobile, and that money flowing into superphone apps will actually create better, more engaging, more frequently updated superphone apps. So we really believe in this. Okay, so shifting back to my days at Disney. So this is pretty straightforward concept. Attitude is everything. One of the things that I learned when I was in the Traditions program, that I actually had a mentor there named Bill Sykes, who was a really hilarious professional entertainer, and he said, you're wearing this ridiculous costume, and you don't think that people can see your face. And although technically they can't, they absolutely can see your expression. And it sort of, makes sense, right? If you're sitting there and you're tired at the end of a day and you're, dressed up like Pluto and you're sitting there, you're like, yeah, okay, take the picture, okay, next person, come on, yes. And even though Pluto's smiling, that doesn't read through the costume. However, if if you have a lot of energy and you're like, dude, awesome, and you sort of like pose and smile for every picture they say, then that really reads. Well, this leads me to the chapter of the story that's about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I had been dutifully performing sets as Pluto, and then one day I show up to the break room, and there's a sign up on the door that says, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are coming to Disney. The casting call, 3 p.m. at this location. Dude, that's all I had to see. I was like, that is awesome. Like, how can I be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, And so I didn't even read anymore. I was just like, I'm there. I'm absolutely there. So I wait, I can't wait for this rehearsal. I show up at 3 p.m. at the Epcot rehearsal room G. I walk in, and something is incredibly wrong. Because as it turns out, I should have probably read like the rest of it, where it says all applicants must have a black belt and one or more martial arts, preferably with a focus in weapons exhibition. Dude, I walk into this room, and it's like what you see, like it's like a Bond film when you walk into like the evil lair where you see like dudes doing backflips and like martial arts gis with weapons, and they're going bananas. And here I am, like in my sweats and sneakers and a t-shirt, like, hi, I'm Pluto. And so I, any sane person would have just kind of walked out and said, okay, my bad. But I read it. I read this because it was posted at the room. My heart dropped, and I said, dude, I can't leave. I got to be a Ninja Turtle. So I basically kind of stealthily work my way to the back of the line. Same setup, chairs, tons of people. But in this case, they're like hardcore, martial arts dudes. And then they do, in this case, the choreography has, some martial arts in it, and it also has some hip hop moves. And instead of playing the Mickey Mouse Club, they play the Ninja Turtle song. And so they start performing, and I have an observation that comes directly from traditions, which is that the people who are getting in the good set of chairs are not necessarily the people whose technique is impeccable. Because think about it, the staff of judges on the little American Idol table, they're not professional martial artists. Yes, they want something that looks convincing on stage, but they're really looking for is this guy a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Like, do they have the energy and enthusiasm that it takes to sort of telegraph this role outside of a huge 50-pound costume? And so I decided that if I had a chance in hell of getting this job, these guys were 10 out of 10 in their technique from the neck down. My technique was I had to be like 15 out of 10 from the neck up. So I basically just telegraphed, and it was the most ridiculous thing ever. I'm like, ah, I'm going. And so at that point, I come to the front, and my technique, I'm sure, was ridiculous. I went to my martial arts experience consisted of one Aikido class at the University of Florida. I had no experience at all. But I walked down, and the judges come up, and they didn't know what to do. They were like, what do we do with this guy? He has no technique, but he's hilarious. So I get in the good set of chairs, and then again and again, and I keep getting through. And by the end, everybody's laughing. Even these world-class martial artists are just like, this guy's ridiculous. And so finally, I get the job to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and actually, it's funny because one of the guys who was and is a world-class martial artist approached me and said, "Dude, I can't believe you got this gig. Come here, I got to show you some moves." And interestingly, that guy, Christopher Lepps, Hollywood filmmaker, is to this day my best friend. He was in my wedding. He sort of formed a really cool bond. So this is me with my parents. I was Leonardo primarily, Leonardo Donatello. You cross-train, and so and you. By the way, my mom, who's actually quite a technologist, you can see her rocking the Betamax, and she always is an early adopter in that way. And so this was an incredibly cool gig. It was super fun, super energetic, and to this kind of theme of attitude is everything. This is the closest that I've felt to the startup experience. This is the Ninja Turtle team, the founding team that I was on, and. The interesting thing about the Ninja Turtles is that, as you would imagine, it's the most strenuous kind of character job on property. If you don't want to, wear yourself out every single day, you would be like Eeyore, oh, somebody stole my ears. Well, you don't even break a sweat. But if you're a Ninja Turtle, you're doing 6 shows a day on stage with weapons, 100-degree weather, 100% humidity. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. So the specific brand of crazy that this job attracted was super cool. So this is actually my friend Beth Vennerstrom, and she went on to be a very acclaimed studio and live vocalist. This is the gentleman I just talked about, Christopher Lepps, independent filmmaker in Hollywood, also was in all 4 Pirates movies, most recently as Johnny Depp's stunt double. He's a world-class action performer and director. You know me. This guy is actually now Dr. Craig Wilkinson. He's a radiation oncologist treating cancer. Awesome. This guy, Raphael, is Dan Mitchell. He actually ran studio entertainment for Universal Orlando for many years, just took a job with Rovio to work on Angry Birds. So really interesting mix of people. Also, Jason Sorrell was a Ninja Turtle. He went on to be a Walt Disney Imagineer and wrote the most recent The Art of the Avengers book. Kevin Richardson was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle with me. He went on to be a Backstreet Boy. It's sort of hilarious blend of people that it brought in, but it's quite a nice metaphor for a startup, particularly a startup in mobile, and especially a startup in mobile advertising, because the specific brand of crazy that's brought into an industry that's moving and evolving this quickly really requires people who love the job and are dedicated and are passionate about this category, and that has really been cool to experience. I recently heard this quote on an interview with Corey May from Ubisoft Montreal. They produce Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed 3, as you know, is coming out tomorrow. In fact, I feel a flu coming on. I think I'll be out of the office on Wednesday as a result. But he says, this is an amazing quote. It's a cliche thing to say, but passion is important. It's my belief that the passion or lack thereof in a game actually leaks out. That you can a lot of times tell when you're playing something whether or not love went into it and how much love went into it. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know if it's something that you're consciously aware of, but I think that it seeps into the cracks of a game and radiates outward. You can feel the love in a game or an app or a website. And I think that that is actually a really great metaphor for not just being a Ninja Turtle, but also being a designer or a developer of software, because although your user, your guest, can't see your face, they absolutely can see the expression that was on your face when you handcrafted that experience for them. Actually, on that note, I thought I'd give you another cool example. One of our partnerships is with the team at Popular Science. They're awesome. They're actually very progressive and very advanced in their approaches to mobile advertising. And so here you see this was a launch campaign for the Bose Bluetooth headset. They're for Bose's first Bluetooth headset. And then on the home screen of the app, you can see that there's our home screen placement on this was a little bit different. So we decided to use kind of a tile format to blend in the brand placement in the context of the content. It's clearly not one of the articles, but it kind of stands out. And then as the user sort of interacts with the content and they tap on an article, then this ad unit is very cool. We call this unit the moonwalk. It has this sort of dramatic reveal as it slides up from the bottom of the screen. Again, hovers there for a very scientific 4.3 seconds, but then it sort of fades away and it nests into the sidecar of the app where it stays for the duration of that user flow. And then, of course, when the user actuates on that, it takes them into this very sexy HTML5 powered app within an app, where you can do nice, full screen photos. In the case of this app, we actually built a really cool 3D product spinner where you could spin the thing around. So a very, very cool kind of engaging tablet ad. So all the same philosophies that we employ on mobile can also easily be employed for tablet, which is very, very cool. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the parade route. Again, a great metaphor for startup. So the parade route at Disney is counterintuitively one of the most intense things to do. And the reason is because you don't realize it, but it's actually an endurance game. Because here you are, you have the band behind you, they're playing music, you're all pumped up, all your friends are there dancing like lunatics with you. You tend to spend yourself early in the parade route not realizing that you're actually only halfway through the parade route. You're not almost done. So there's this is a Google Maps shot of the Disney MGM Studios, the park where I worked. The parade route kind of came down this long road, then came down and went around this element, which is called the nose. They call it the nose because the original design of the park, there's a Mickey in there, which is kind of cool. And then this area right here is called the danger zone. And the reason why it's called the danger zone is because it was great sport for new characters to stand on either side of the parade route the first week of the summer when all the new recruits would come in, because they didn't know how to pace themselves, and at least a couple of times every week someone would just pass out. And it's funny because you would see them coming down and they'd be super enthusiastic at the beginning of the route and they'd get a little bit woozy and you're like, oh dude, Goofy's totally going down. And then a couple steps later they'd swan dive. In fact, it was such a common occurrence that there was even a standard operating procedure for what happens when a character passes out in a parade. They call it character CPR. And they go up to the character and they Minnie pushes Goofy's stomach down and then Pluto throws his legs up and they do this little charade. This poor person is passed out inside, right? And they pick them up and they kind of carry them off, and it's all part of the show, and everybody laughs, and it's fine. And then they go backstage, and there's paramedics waiting, and they pop the head, and that way they don't have to take Goofy's head off and scar kids for life. So it's really very colorful. I use this as an analogy because the thing that brought me into this Zumobi adventure was that I actually was at Microsoft Research for 7 years, and my charter was to do and fund kind of advanced user interface research on mobile phones. This was way back in 1999, long before superphones and iPhone and Android and other devices. So our work, myself and Zumobi co-founder, Professor Ben Betterson, together with Amy Carlson, who's now a researcher at Microsoft, we collaborated on this project that we called Launch Tiles. And it was this direct manipulation, sort of navigational model. This research we actually published and patented and prototyped, and curiously, at the time, Microsoft was very much focused on BlackBerry Compete and enterprise messaging. Consumer and content and advertising wasn't necessarily in the blast radius at the time. This work was done in the mid-2000s. So at the time, they actually packaged up that patent portfolio in a small team and the prototype and spun us off to an independent company in downtown Seattle called Zumobi. And then serendipitously, soon thereafter, iPhone happened, Android happened, app stores, iPads, and we were really, really well positioned to be able to be aggressive in that space with this technology and approach. And we also had built expertise early on the concept of high-end content and high-end sponsorship. So it's a very interesting turn of events. As it turns out, even though this patent, the core launch tile patent, is actually a Zumobi-owned patent application, we obviously have a great collaborative relationship with Microsoft, who still owns a small percentage of the company, and we love the fact that they've sort of taken a similar approach with their screen and tablet and Xbox interface, and we wish them great luck in the months to come as they go to market in an aggressive way with Windows 8. But it was interesting that the early seed of that work was really this concept called launch tiles. And actually, for a brief time, we took this to market on with a product called Zumobi 4 that ran on Windows Mobile, BlackBerry, and this was around that Lenovo experience. We actually also ran it on iPhone. Now, keep in mind, the iPhone App Store had only been open for a few days. It was only open for a couple of weeks, I think. And so we were expecting, with this emerging platform, maybe 20% of the traffic would be on iPhone. The reality is that this was what the traffic looked like: 1% on BlackBerry, 1% on Windows Mobile. 98% of the traffic was on iPhone. So that very quickly validated this as an opportunity. So we pivoted the company very aggressively to be aggressive in this space. We did some of the early big branded apps with Pepsi and REI and others. We did an early branded app with Xbox, but it was actually this project. We were approached by Pepsi, who wanted to figure out how to do a never-been-done-before style ad experience inside the Xbox app. And that was the first time that we did this concept called green label art, which was this really sexy app-within-an-app style experience, skinning experience for Pepsi and Mountain Dew inside the official app for Xbox. And that really set our trajectory. I mean, we realized that we now had an incredible future ahead of us. We were a little bit exhausted because we'd been, sort of building these things aggressively for 2 or 3 years, but then we realized that, much like the parade route, that this is an endurance game and have never looked back. So that was a really, really very exciting path for us, and that's led us to where we are now. So the last portion, in the last 5 minutes, I want to talk about is this concept of the yin and the yang of mobile advertising. So hilariously, even though when I auditioned to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I had absolutely no martial arts experience at all, when you spend 10 hours a day with the world's best martial artists for 4 years, 6 shows a day. There are only 6 30-minute shows a day, so the rest of the time you're basically backstage training. And so you very quickly learn a little bit of martial arts along the way, to the point where in 1992 I actually competed in the Martial Arts US Open. Hilariously, I didn't do very well. But I did compete, and it was an amazing experience. And I learned this concept, this important concept of martial arts, which is different styles from different regions are quite unique. So there are hard styles and soft styles of martial arts, and this is very much about the yin and the yang between punching and blocking. So if you look at a more traditional, like hard style martial art, like some of the karate styles, those are very like duh, you're blocking or you're striking at very distinct times. Christopher Lepps and others that became my sort of martial arts mentors were versed in Northern-style praying mantis kung fu, which those of you versed in Ninja Turtle canon might have an issue because the Ninja Turtles were not Chinese. But the styles that we learned were very much about the soft style of kung fu, and there's an incredible philosophical tie with user interface in the martial arts. These sort of styles of soft style kung fu are much more organic and fluid between blocking and striking. And even with the weapons forms, typically you think the weapons are very hard by their nature. I'll use eskrima sticks instead of broadswords because I don't want to test the death and dismemberment policy of the resort. But even with something like weapons, if you think about the fairly standard like styles, martial arts styles. When you sort of do a style like this and you do something like double broadsword flowers where you're spinning these things, it seems like it's just kind of a show, but actually what it is this organic movement between striking and blocking, where you're going to block strike, and then you're going to strike, and then you with that leg, did you? It's like this very organic kind of quick movement, and all of these things are kind of flow into one another in a very cool and organic way. It's a very cool poetry of motion that is both hard and soft, but it kind of blurs the lines between blocking and striking. And again, it's sort of funny to think about it in this context, but it's actually quite interesting that this, if you think of traditional banners as kind of hard style, where there's no question where the content is, where the advertising is. Some ringtone and wallpaper banner ads even look like you're getting punched in the face. There's a lot more opportunity around kind of blurring those lines. And that's really 100% what we're focused on right now, is sort of blurring the lines between content and advertising. And for the big finish, I'll bring out the left hand. By the way, I want to thank you, Michelle, for making me a left hand. No amount of money anywhere in the world can buy you a left foam hand. Hilarious. So I'm going to equip. Give me 1 second. Yes. Okay. So this is a campaign. This is one of the best blurring the lines campaigns that I've ever seen. That was done in partnership with our friends at Motor Trend and also at Chevrolet and their agency Goodby. So you can see that Chevy had created these 6 different sections that were about Chevrolet technology. So this is section 1, but every 2 weeks there was a new section that was unveiled. So again, loading screen placement, home screen placement right there, that little jitterbug unit. And then as you drill into the content and you're reading a piece of content, you get this very sexy expandable unit, 4.3 seconds, settles back down, you actuate on that, and now this takes you into the app within an app. And this is really, truly branded content. I mean, you can kind of drag up and interact with it. There's long-form video. You can read it. It's really compelling content. And then you can actually tap on the menu, and you can retro-navigate to any other section in this experience. So, for example, after a couple weeks, the propulsion section will come live, introducing a new set of color-coded banners. And we created all of these, and ZBI enabled all these. And then, a couple weeks later, driving dynamics, new section, new set of banners, all color-coded, so that these users, even the ones that use the app every single day, are constantly introduced new units, and it makes for a more kind of engaging experience. The coolest thing about this, you see that button at the top that says Save to your home screen, so I can actually tap on that, and then we take you through this quick user flow where you can say Add to home screen, and then we actually galvanize the HTML5 portions of this experience as an app on your home screen that you can launch and you can revisit at any point outside the context of this app. Very cool. Another great kind of blurring the lines, yin and yang branded experience that we've done recently is one that we did together with American Express. Now, American Express has pivoted their brand. They've been very aggressive about social media. They've done an incredible job with the American Express Sync technology. And so they wanted to kind of say, what does the American Express card mean to you? How is American Express unique to you? And the challenge to us was, can you use ZBI to create a truly personal social ad? And we said, yeah, we think we're up to that challenge. So first of all, we had a whole host of really, really sexy ads and loading screen experiences. We had these targeted banner units. This was a travel-focused one. Let's see a photo of your latest getaway. Auto expand, auto collapse. This was sort of a female-focused shopping experience that ran inside the week. Very, very cool. And then the idea was that when the user tapped on one of the banners, we would take them into this, which was a panoramic experience that was all about them. Here's how it worked. When you launch the ad, it says, create a personalized panorama of what you love and then learn how to save on some of your favorite things. Sounds cool. I'll create a panorama. So the first question is, customize the panorama with the things you love. So I'll type in my name. And then I'll type in my hometown. And then say next. Now it's asking me, how do you use your American Express card? To update your wardrobe, buy the latest gadget, tame your travel bug, or try a new bistro? Well, I'll choose that. Check this out. So on this one, move these phones over. So on this one, it says, do you have a favorite dish or delicious treat? Now this is the first ever photo UGC experience, because as you know, you can't do this with mobile web technology, but using our sort of ZBI hybrid native layer, we actually now take you into your native photo picker on your iPhone. So I'm going to say, oh, dude, I went to this awesome bistro the other day. You tap on this. Now you're in the native photo picker with everything, where I can pinch and zoom, and I can sort of drag around. And then I can say, I want to use this. And then it takes about 3 seconds. We composite this into a panoramic experience. And this is all about me. It's my name. This is my hometown. Even the Twitter interop is cool, because if you've ever used Twitter in the host app, like if you've ever shared a piece of content on the Today Show, or you've ever pulsed out a slideshow from an app, you can say, I want to follow. And since you've already authenticated in the app, the user experience is cool. It changes the text from follow to following, and now you're following the brand. So as a result, this campaign got really great Twitter follow numbers, which was awesome. This, of course, is the photo that I took and uploaded. We also choose a sort of canned stock photo based on the category of card use that you selected. Or if you have more time, you can actually add another one. And then you can actually learn how to connect your card to Facebook, Foursquare, and Twitter. And then you can do it right there inside the ad campaign. We think this is the most advanced mobile ad that has ever been run. We had an incredible time sort of building this together with our partners at American Express, Lou Pascalis and Stacy Monero, who really trusted the platform and trusted our team to be able to handcraft this experience. So I would just sort of say in summary that I think this is an incredibly exciting time for apps and for mobile and for advertising. I think that the fact that these types of experiences are starting to trickle their way into mobile devices represents a huge opportunity for everyone in this room and everyone in the industry. And even though the last 5 years have been incredibly thrilling in the landscape of mobile, I honestly believe that the next 5 years promise to be even more exciting. Thank you very much for your time.